filming in the evening for a change, but you've just got back from Dubai where you were commentating Quintet. So do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, first of all, it was freaking awesome. Very, very happy to have been part of the kind of the rebirth, so this new incarnation of Quintet. Got the call a couple of months ago. They said they were going to do Quintet in Dubai. And I was like, amazing. It's like the first time they've done a Quintet in nearly 2 years. Or actually, no, almost exactly 2 years. I think it was September 2023 was the last Quintet in Tokyo that obviously we were both there for. But they called me out for this one to do commentary. And I'm so, so glad that I went to it because I imagined that there were going to be some differences based on the fact that it was being held in Dubai and it was a brand new team organizing the event. But from my perspective, and I'd love to hear yours because I know you watched it, it looked and it felt just indistinguishable from a regular Quintet. And I had so much fun. It was a great event. Personally, I was really proud to be part of it. But from your perspective, how did it look? Like I didn't get to see it. So how did it look from the outside?
Yes, I bought the pay-per-view just because I'm a fan, and I watched it the day after, I suppose. It looked and felt like a real Quintet, and it had, it was a real Quintet, but they definitely achieved what they'd set out to do, which is to run, a full-scale Quintet kind of overseas. Like, I know we've talked about the rules a few times before, and I feel like, Polaris is kind of, we like hyper-focused on the rules and how could we improve the rules and things like that, but those guys really know how to put on a show and make it feel like really special, because I feel like the rules are very high risk in terms of like it could go badly, but when it goes well, it's just so exciting, and it's almost like the risk of it going badly makes it feel even better when it's going really well. But yeah, from purely like a viewer standpoint, it was a really good show.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that. Obviously, my view as a spectator, number one, I'm mat side, so I'm in the venue. I have a very different perspective. I do have a monitor, of course. I'm commentating from what a fan at home would see on the broadcast, but I'm not paying attention like a fan, because I'm so in the moment and I'm juggling lots of different things. So I'm happy to hear that it looked the part. A quick note on the rules about what you said there. So if you've listened to us in the past, we've talked about quintets and we've talked about the rules, but just to sort of summarize very quickly, it's different from other team competitions because it's winner stays on. And this is the same format that was used at the recent CJI2. So the idea is you have two teams of 5 guys and you pick your lineup and then you have a match. And if there is no submission, it's considered a draw, double elimination. Both guys are out. But if one guy wins by submission, then he stays on to face the next opponent. And you're right. Sometimes it doesn't always work because you could have 5 double eliminations in a row and it's kind of, just a bunch of draws. Even if they're fun matches, there's no nice, clean ending to the match. But I feel that what made Quintet different from the CJI is that the teams that you see on CJI were just like best of the best kind of guys. And there was no real great disparity between the competitors. But Quintet, they always do such a good job of finding random guys that you've never seen or heard of before. And sometimes that results in these amazing breakout moments. And sometimes it results in like an incredible squash match, right?
Yeah, they, unless you're a massive jiu-jitsu nerd, in which case you've heard of all of them. But like, I happen to know that Sosuke Oshima guy because a lot of people were talking about him a couple of years ago. When he was like 16, he was already like fucking people up. So when I saw him on the team, I was like, oh shit, that's cool. But also, what else was I going to say? Oh, for me, the fundamental difference between Quintet and then what CGI did with the Quintet rules was the fact that the team is out there on the side of the mat. So you can see the team bonding and which is like the whole point of the team event is that team dynamic. So I understand what Craig was trying to do with his version of it, but it needs the team there on the side of the mat, which you could see, they're like massaging biceps and giving them water and like game planning and stuff. It was really cool. Yeah.
It was. From where I was sitting, the teams, because I was right at like the corner of the mat, and then just a few feet, just beyond sort of arm's reach, was the 5 seats where sort of one of the teams would sit. And like you say, they all come out together. They all sit there for all the matches, and the guys are coming back and forth. So I was sat right next to the corner. I think for the, let me see, I think Team Sakuraba were sat there for the finals. And during the opening round, it was Team Henzo Gracie. And then in the semi-final match was Team Bangtao. So I got to sit next to almost everybody there during the show. And you're right, there's that great moments when guys come over between matches, and they're either getting sort of pats on the back and saying, "Don't worry about it, you didn't let us down, it's okay," because getting that nice word. Or of course you have that amazing celebration when the guys are coming over and they're all having that happy moment. It is definitely a really cool element. But there were some great matches, right? There were some amazing highlights out of this one too.
Yeah, and I got the memory of a goldfish, but just at the top of my mind is probably Igor Tanabe getting those 2 subs. That was the first round, but it was the second matchup, right?
No, it was. You're right. It was the first
semi-final.
No, it was the first semi-final. You're right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was Team Saku Japan versus Team Henzo Gracie, and Igor came out and he hit 2 back-to-back submissions, very quick submissions as well. I think in total there was probably like less than 2 minutes of fighting in those 2 matches. Yeah. That's what's special about Quintet, right?
Yeah, definitely. And because he was the backstop, wasn't he? I forget what the Japanese word is, but they put like a solid guy, dangerous guy at the end as like the last line of defense, and he did his job and put them through. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, they have the names for the order of the fighters in Japanese, right? You meant that he was the Taisho, the 5th guy?
Is it Taisho? Yeah, that sounds about right. Tai means big.
Maybe. Really? Does it?
Yeah.
Because I even have it in my notes, because they were very particular about, you have to say certain things that are, relating to Quintet. Yeah. So the order of the fighters, it's Senpo, Jiho, Chukun, Fukusho, and Taisho.
Chu means center, so that makes sense.
Because he's the 3rd guy, right?
Yeah. Maybe Senpo is leader or something. I don't know.
Wow. That's cool. I didn't think to ask what they meant, so.
Yeah, I'm sure they've all got the meanings, yeah.
Yeah, Igor was awesome.
I was going to ask you, like, because they're particular about things like that. I guess maybe you could tell us a bit about just how particular they were, because we had some dealings with Quintet in the past, and there was like discussions about maybe we could help them to do a show in the UK, but it became very clear that would involve flying over a lot of people from Japan who would make sure that the show ran kind of exactly how they expected it to, which obviously for a show like ours is it's not easy to do, but I guess if you're in the Middle East and you have the backing of some powerful people, then that is something you can do. So I assume that's what happened.
There were a lot of Japanese people there this weekend. We were all staying in the same hotel. The organizing team, the athletes, ourselves, the media crew. And there were a lot of Japanese people there, as the whole sort of referees and judges were there. Of course, all the competitors, Genki Sudo and World Order were also staying there. So, there's 7 or 8 guys.
Yeah, we can come back to that. I love that.
Yeah. But it was very interesting for me to see the interaction going on between the Japanese and the sort of the regional organizing team, which is, I would just call them sort of the Arabic team, because they're very international. You had guys on the organizing team from all over the region, from Syria, from Lebanon, from Egypt, from Jordan, but they're all culturally Arab. And it was very interesting to see their communication and their dealings with the Japanese, because, I mean, those are 2 wildly different cultures, and they do have very different styles of doing business and very different styles of communicating. I think it all went to plan, and it all went, it hit expectations, let's say. But there were definitely some moments where I could tell the locals were a little bit either frustrated or kind of a little bit on edge, just because there was that difficulty in finding out exactly what the Japanese wanted, and then having to accommodate all these last-second requests that weren't originally sort of passed to them. But one thing I will say this, though, man, the locals, the guys who actually put the show together, they dealt with every challenge so calmly, so professionally. And if there were any clashes, and I certainly didn't see any, but if there were any, they kept that sort of very hidden, and they just executed the event, and they did a really good job. But it was definitely quite
Nice.
curious to see the two different cultures sort of, head to head.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Japan is pretty unique, and sometimes they have a habit of kind of not directly saying what they want, just kind of implying it. And if you don't pick up on the hints, then you're in for a long day.
Yeah, we had a special meeting a few days before the event where we were called into a room with this rather enigmatic figure who is usually referred to as Mr. Y. And he is one of the sort of the brains behind Quintet and apparently other things in the world of Japanese combat sports over the years. He's very close to Sakuraba himself. And we had a meeting where it was myself and a few other members of the media team sat around this table with Sakuraba, with Mr. Y and a translator, and then a bunch of other Japanese people that we weren't even introduced to, who were kind of just sat in the room, sort of half paying attention to what we were saying. And man, it's interesting because Mr. Y, very cool customer, didn't really say a lot, but when he did, and it was passed through the translator, you made sure you had to listen. But Sakuraba himself, though, was in the meeting for the entire thing, and he maybe said 10 words in like an hour-long meeting. Yeah. He's a weird guy to deal with, because obviously he's this legendary figure in the sport. But when you meet him personally, he is just so different to any kind of image or idea I had of what that great figure is. You've been around Sakuraba quite a bit, right?
Yeah, he kind of jumps between being really serious and really quiet to being like really goofy and funny. I've had a few kind of sit downs with him, a few dinners with him. He's fun after a few beers. At the first Quintet, we had beers, and as we were like drinking, me and my business partner Ben, we were like, "Oh, aren't you competing in a couple of days?" He's like, "Yeah, I won't drink tomorrow."
Wow.
But yeah, you're right. They're very close knit. I guess he doesn't need to say much because he's kind of already explained everything that he needed to the people around him, and then they kind of take the baton from there.
Yeah, very curious though. Very curious. My first time working on any kind of professional event with a Japanese team, and yeah, I made a point of when we were invited into this meeting to take, let's say, an active listening role. And, they had one or two questions for me, but it was really about, we're going to tell you who we are and what we do and what we want, and you're going to listen. And I was like, yeah, I understand the mission here. It's when the boss wants to speak, you make sure you shut up and listen, right?
Yeah, they're very good at maintaining kind of formal procedures like that, which sometimes, we're pretty casual in the West, I guess, in general, Europe, America. We wouldn't have like a long sit down meeting with, unless there's like technical things to be discussed or aspects of the show, it's all fairly casual. But Japan still maintains that working culture and kind of, following those kinds of traditions. Yeah, they'll definitely do that stuff.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But the event itself, when it got started, wow, it was so cool. They brought over Lenne Hardt, the iconic voice of Pride. People maybe not even know her name, but she was the famous MC who would do those incredible screaming announcements for the fighters. She was over. That immediately gives any event like an authentic kind of old school Japanese combat show vibe, right?
Yeah, her voice is iconic. I wonder how long she can keep doing it. It feels like she's been doing it for about 30 years or something. I mean, I think she's an opera singer or she's definitely some kind of singer in her normal life, which you can kind of tell. But yeah, that voice is iconic.
I asked her if she had any kind of any tips for taking care of the vocal cords, because she is blasting out those ring entrances, and I can imagine after a couple of those, you must be feeling it in your throat. And she said, no, not really. She said, when I grew up, my mother was deaf, so I used to have to shout and to speak really loudly. And I went to theater when I was a kid, and I'm a trained singer. And she has like a special tea that she drinks,
Yeah,
herbal tea, and that's
seem
it.
to remember that.
Yeah, that's it. So that was kind of interesting.
She's a special person. If I remember, they do long rehearsals as well. I mean, I don't know what Quintet was like, but I remember watching documentaries about Pride, even Rising. They'd be rehearsing all day long, to get it right. So yeah, it must be exhausting.
She did say that, actually. She said that in Japan, you were there at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning for rehearsals. And we turned up about 3 or 4 hours before the show was about to start and didn't even get started until about an hour and a half before the show was about to start for the actual technical rehearsal. So yeah, which they were not used to.
Yeah. I didn't end up watching the very last kind of bits of it, but did Sakuraba give like a weird speech and then start singing, or give out any strange medals or anything at the end?
Yes and yes. He did come on and give a weird speech that was translated by our good friend Stuart Fulton, the big Scottish guy who's been living in Japan for 24 years. He came on, he said a few words, kind of just a quick thank you to the crowd, something that seemed quite weird. I didn't quite catch the full translation. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it definitely was Sakuraba style. And he did sing. He did. Yeah. I thought, okay, cool. We get a Sakuraba kind of like karaoke as well.
Karaoke.
Or part of the show. But I'll just go back to the action. Man, there were some great matches. There really were. There was a lot of submissions. The toughest match, or sort of team match, let's say, that took place was between Team Nogueira and Team Bangtao. So you had Minotauro and Bob Sapp as the two kind of team leaders, coaches for that one. But they had some really tough guys. There was like PJ Barch, Dong Hyun Kim, the UFC fighter, Lucas Hulk. They brought over some tough guys for Team Bangtao. And then the guys who actually went on to win, Team Nogueira Dubai, they had a really tough team. And they're all international guys, but all based, and they actually do train at Team Nogueira Dubai. And I really liked that they use guys that they have a physical connection with. They didn't just call some tough guys from around the world to come and represent them. It wasn't like a super team. They had Thiago Sarr, who's the head BJJ coach at Team Nogueira Dubai. They had Puya Rahmani, the giant Iranian wrestler who's been training there for the last 3-4 years as well. They had an Egyptian MMA fighter called Mido Mohammed who trains there every day. And then they had 2 Russians, Nikolai Vetrov and Zelimkhan Kashayev. And these are both also 2 guys who I had never heard of, because Zeleman is a black belt, but he only competes locally in the UAE. Vetrov really only competes in Russia. He's a brown belt even. But man, those guys were so tough. And quick shout out, some of my favorite matches was Mido Mohammed, who competes, I think he weighed in at about 70 kilos, and he actually competes as like a featherweight in MMA. He actually went up against Dong Hyun Kim in a 4-minute match. And Dong Hyun Kim is the first ever Korean UFC fighter, and is a big dude. And dude, this guy
looks tough.
He is tough. Yeah, he's tons and tons of fights, great professional. And this kid, Mido, went at him, like duck under, took his back, threw him around. Dong Hyun Kim could not do anything to him. Just had this little featherweight like running rings around him. Got like I
think I saw that one actually. Yeah, I remember that one.
Man, that was a lot of fun. And that's why I love Quintet, because I'm talking about the mismatches earlier. You have these relatively unknowns, or sometimes you have like big guy versus little guy. And you just don't often see that kind of action elsewhere. I think that's one of the things that makes Quintet special, right?
Yeah. You were talking about Mr. Y earlier. I think last time I went to Tokyo, I had a sit down with him, and Stuart was also there. And he was telling us, I wish I could remember kind of exactly what he was saying, but he was explaining that it's the difference between like the Japanese image of this type of event, which is that it's martial arts, and the Western image of this type of event, which is it's a sport. So in the Western image, where everything has to be fair, equal, everybody has to weigh the same, the rules have to, whereas the Japanese image, like if you go back to Pride, it's just martial arts, it's just fighting. So the rules are a bit more open. Quite often there was weight mismatches, there was skill mismatches. He kind of said, it's like if you're on the street and somebody challenges you, you can't ask them how much they weigh. Obviously he's being facetious because he's not getting challenged in the street that often, but it was more the sentiment that it's a martial art of, one person against another person, no matter what the circumstances, and then the drama that can be generated from those unequal circumstances. He's really, really knowledgeable about how to build a fight promotion and how to promote fights, even stuff like that. I'm remembering now, he was saying, so the first time you match people together, you make sure it's as uneven as possible. And then if the guy with the advantage wins, then they can set up a rematch where they even the odds slightly. Or if the guy who was at a disadvantage wins, it's very dramatic and like exciting. They were always thinking 2 or 3 matches ahead and trying to make the most exciting thing possible, not just a sport where everything was as clean, as equal as possible,
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. They gave us a little bit of insight as to that in that meeting that we had, like I said. And it opened my eyes to the sort of the thought process behind how they do run their events, like you said, very differently to how maybe we expect it to see in the West. Explains a lot as to why Quintet is the way it is. And I think you're right. A lot of people might see it sometimes as unfair when you have a guy who weighs 70 kilos going up against a guy who's 110. But one thing that they did mention to us was it's not always the result that is actually that important. It's about the show. It's about the spectacle. It's about the entertainment of seeing something you otherwise wouldn't see. And one thing that they one thing that they respect a lot is they really respect people who try hard in the face of adversity, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was Nakamura Daisuke, wasn't it? The older guy. He's kind of, Sakuraba's very loyal to him. They've known each other forever. He keeps like trotting him out for these quintets, but then those dramatic moments happen. Like who was he up against was it the finals?
It was Romani against the file, the biggest, strongest, most intimidating dude in the entire event. And yeah, you had 70 kilo, 46-year-old Daisuke Nakamura going up against this gigantic Iranian warrior in the final. Yeah, that was
crazy.
Yeah, it really was crazy. It felt like old style Pride.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they wouldn't announce that as a super fight, because that would be ridiculous. But somehow on Quintet, it's like the best thing you've ever seen, where he's trying to break his arm with 1 second to go.
And he did break it. They did break. Nakamura, he came out, and obviously he's vastly undersized. Quick story about what happened to him as well. He got really injured in the opening round match against Team Renzo Gracie. He got submitted by a knee bar against Andre Luis, and he was not in good shape. And when they all went backstage, the doctors, they were kind of taking a look at him, and they were trying to say to him, "Oh, you can't go back out." And he was like crying his eyes out because he's so frustrated. And the team were all saying to him, no, you can't fight. You can't fight. This was all recounted to me afterwards. Basically, what they did was the team said, no, like you can't compete like this. You're too hurt. You're too injured. And he said, no, let me do it. He's like, let me do it. I got to compete because this is going to be my last ever quintet. He said, I'm the old guy on the team. I wanted to support it. Sakuraba called me to compete, but I want to retire after this one from Quintet because I want to give the other young guys the opportunity to compete and represent Sakuraba instead. But I can't go out like this. I have to go out and fight. So what they did was they kept him away from the medics. So the medics didn't know how bad his injury was. So he kind of strapped his knee up and he went out to compete. But they put him at the very end of the 5-man lineup, hoping that we can win this. He doesn't have to go out, risk further injury, and then he can go home and, job is done. But what happens? Team Sakuraba versus Team Nogueira, they kind of go back and forth throughout all the matches, and you end up with the two, like you said, the strongest guys. They hold the strongest guys for last, and it was Nakamura against Ramani. Ramani was the anchor, as we like to call it, for Team Nogueira. So you have this gigantic Iranian wrestler, professional MMA fighter who
11 kilos?
111 kilos, came into grappling a couple of years ago and has already beaten guys like Kainan Duarte on points. He beat Lucas Hulk, or beat him. It was technically a draw, but he shut Hulk down in the opening match. And he's actually learned jiu-jitsu because when he first came onto the scene a while ago, he just had, I'm big, I'm strong, you can't sweep me, you can't submit me. and that's it. He came out and he's cycling through like mount attacks. He's going for chokes. He's going for the mother's milk submission. He's going arm lock. He was going for like straight ankles. He's attacking the back, and big guy moves really well. And he's doing all this to this kind of like semi-geriatric MMA fighter with 60 fights under his belt, and he catches this Kimura right at the end of the match. And this isn't just, midway through. This is the final seconds of the final round. All comes down to this. And he slams on this Kimura, and he's kind of trying to dig it out. And Daisuke is resisting as best he can. But then the arm comes free, and Puya starts cranking on it. And Daisuke's hand is up, and it's hovering. You can see it's kind of fluttering. Is he going to tap? Is he not going to tap? And then literally with 1 second left on the clock, the arm just goes crack. And Puya lets it go. And he is just so upset at this moment because he felt it break. He heard it snap. He runs away from the other side of the mat, and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Daisuke comes, he's obviously in a lot of pain, but everybody comes in to take care of him. I think the adrenaline is kind of working. He's like, oh, it's okay. He's sort of moving his arm around. But we've been told like his elbow did break. It wasn't just like a little dislocation or a pop or something. It broke. And he wrote a post on Instagram, and it's interesting because he barely posts on social media. I think he posts 3 times a year or something. But Daisuke actually said, like, don't do what I did. Like, I was so stupid not to tap. He's advising other people. Yeah, which I kind of found surprising because, the Japanese sort of value that samurai spirit, never say die kind of, and he's like,
maybe in the moment.
Exactly. He's like, what I did was just like dumb. Just please don't follow me in my example. Kind of crazy.
That's
right?
Funny. I was going to ask you, like, I wonder how he feels on the flight back home with a busted knee and a broken arm. Is he sitting there like, hell yeah? Or is he like, I shouldn't have done that?
Yeah, I think he probably thought he shouldn't have done that, to be honest with you. Yeah. Poor guy. Yeah, he had it put on him in that one. That was really rough. But what a legend, though. What an absolute legend. You gotta respect people like that.
Definitely.
So what else about the event stood out for you? Anything else that you that sort of made an impression?
I'm obsessed with Sudo Genki and his kind of incredible career, which is actually, I think he basically retired from music and now he's a politician, but Sakuraba managed to drag him out of retirement to perform some of his classics, which brought a lot of memories back because I think I was still living in Japan when all that stuff came out. And I just think it's amazing, like on an artistic sort of level. The music I actually really enjoyed, and I enjoy the lyrics too. Like he's obviously had a lot of experiences in his life, and he's able to communicate them in a kind of distilled down, like Janglish that doesn't really make any sense but sounds just right. But then the dancing is so expressive. I'm not a fan of dancing, but I can watch Genki Sudo and World Order dance all day long, and they somehow the way that they move like gives you the emotions of the situation that they're trying to express. It was really cool.
I'm not a fan of halftime to intermissions in any kind of sports event. I'm really not a fan of when they bring out like a dance troupe or some entertainers or something. Yeah. I've seen it so many times, whether it's like some break dancers or something like that. I'm just like, keep it moving, guys. Don't
care.
Yeah, let's get back to the action. But I'll make an exception for any time Genki Sudo is involved, because that guy was such a legend. And I think he's probably not as well known in the combat sports world now because he's been retired for probably close to 15 years at this point.
Shit.
But
I guess so.
Makes you feel old, right? But for those of us who remember him as a fighter, and not only was he an incredible fighter, like technically speaking, he was doing things back then that even now would be considered groundbreaking in MMA. And his grappling was phenomenal. We talked a few episodes ago about his grappling, but he was the absolute undisputed king of the ring entrances, right? And those huge song and dance numbers when he had literally like dozens of dancers all coming out on the way to the ring. that was the greatest showman we've ever had in MMA. Full stop. The guy is just he's a freaking legend.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think at was it K1 Heroes where we saw the most of him? Which was that kind of short-lived MMA promotion in Japan, but it was massive like all the others. And just to have an entire arena, watching you do some insane dance routine with like 20 backup dancers on your way to, one of the biggest matches of your career. That stuff was insane. And then he would perform in the ring as well, wouldn't he? Like bust out the robot every now and then, and then like turn around and starch Hywel Gracie and leave him on the floor. Like he was ridiculous.
And Stuart, who I should clarify who Stuart is. Stuart Fulton, I mentioned, he's a Scottish guy who's been living in Japan for 24 years. Stuart works very closely with the world of MMA. He went over there to become an MMA fighter originally and had, I think, 10 or 12 fights. Trained in came from Sakuraba's fight team, actually, which was a really intriguing story about going old school. And he had the tryouts and everything.
Uchideshi, living in the house, cooking. It means like a disciple.
Right.
Cleaning, chopping vegetables, making dinner for the team, a stable of wrestlers, all that crazy stuff.
Exactly that. Yeah. You've probably seen or heard of it more in things like sumo, right?
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. That's exactly what he went through. So he earned his stripes, and in the last few years, he's been commentating and announcing MMA, kickboxing, pro wrestling in Japan. He's very, very involved in that. But he was telling me about Genki, and he was telling me that everything Genki did in his career, even fighting, everything was with this idea that I will go into politics. So all of that creation of the personality, all the showmanship, all of the sort of making a name for himself in the world of fighting, it was all with the goal of, no, I will become a politician. And it's kind of curious that he's a politician or, aspiring, but it just seems that he's doing side quests, because apparently he recently got his captain's license. He can now captain a boat. He owns an English school in the Philippines. He was out there recently doing some business out there. And apparently he is now also accredited, because you have to have a license, I guess, to do this, but he's a trained sushi chef as well. He did all the training necessary. And I can imagine it's a lot of training in Japan to become like a proper sushi chef as well. So it's just like, what can't this guy do?
Well, then you add that to published author, MMA fighter, singer, dancer. Yeah, quite an impressive career. Makes us look bad.
Yeah, what an absolute legend. I love that guy. Genki Sudo. It's so cool to meet him. Never met him personally. Did manage to snag a quick photo with him backstage as well. And I don't do that very often, I will say.
I always forget.
Photos. Yeah, but I did. Yeah. And it's kind of funny as well, because all of his guys, they all wear like the sort of the salaryman style kind of suit and tie for their performances. So they just look really normal. And they're all there lined up. And I happen to be wearing like a dark navy suit, the same color as them, and a tie. So I took a photo. I'm like, I'm the new member of Genki Sudo's World Order. Yeah, it's funny.
But can you dance there?
No, definitely not that. Definitely not like those guys can. They're actually, it's kind of weird because they look like just these very random, like I said, kind of like salary men, which is just like the corporate workers in Japan. But they dance really well, don't they?
Yeah, really good. Crazy good.
Yeah. Well, so Quintet was a lot of fun. And by all accounts, because the response was good, because everything went down really well, we are likely to see more next year. I know that there were meetings scheduled for immediately after this one with the local organizers in talking to sort of financial backers and so on about doing more events in the Middle East next year, potentially international events as well. I don't know, but it seems that the UAE could have more Quintet events pretty soon if plans go well. They talk about as soon as early next year, and they want to make sure they try and get another one done before Ramadan, which is like February, March, when everything just shuts down in the UAE. So
yeah,
that would be awesome. Would not be unhappy about more Quintet in the near future.
Yeah. No, I love watching Quintet. That'd be great.
Yeah. So speaking of preparations for events and stuff, how are things going? You were about right now about 5-6 days out from Polaris Squads, the big finale, the end of the year show.
Yeah, we got it's Team Asia Oceania versus Team Europe. So both those continents won their kind of semi-finals during this year of squads. The European team is fairly OP, but the Asia Oceania team has a couple of heavy hitters in it as well. I think Lucas Canard just won that Street X Invitational with a bunch of quick subs, if I remember.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, and because I think when he did squads last, pretty sure his rib got injured quite quickly in the first match. So
that's right.
He definitely, he couldn't. I mean, he won like the next 3 matches or something, but there was definitely something off. So it'll be interesting to see him at full capacity because he's like a big guy and a quick finisher, which is what that team needs. So yeah.
So the squads is very different to Polaris. To Quintet. But we talked a little bit in the past about the rules. But just give us a quick summary of how the team things work between Europe and Asia and Oceania, as opposed to something like you would see on Quintet.
Well, we changed the rules to make it more like a ball sport. So there's 2 45-minute halves and the action carries on the whole time. And you can just recycle through the team once they've all got used up. So it made quite a big departure from Quintet. We kind of did that on purpose because we didn't want to just rip them off. And you rack up points along the way. And this year's been really good. Like all the squads events, we did 2 male ones and 1 women's one, and they were awesome. So this will be one of the biggest shows we've ever done because the European team is stacked. The Asia Oceania team has some really good people in it. We have 2 super fights, both women. We have Fionn versus Margot and Helena versus Sulame. So it is a stacked card and a really good prelims as well.
Nice. So this is going to take place in Poole, which is where Scramble HQ is actually based, right?
Yeah, just down the road. Yeah, I'm probably going to walk there, to be honest. I'm going to walk to the venue.
Wow, that's nice.
It's not raining.
Sleep in your own bed for once. That's really cool for one of these events. The European team, they beat the USA team. Is that correct?
North America.
Because
there was pretty sure. Yeah, there was there was some Canadians in there.
And then the Asia Oceania team, they took out the South America team. That's cool. Did you expect to see these 2 teams in the final?
Europe, I was pretty sure of. I wasn't sure how the other one would go. But yeah, like those results didn't surprise me too much. I'm just happy that everybody is healthy and able to do these finals. Yeah.
Just
because it's difficult to plan in advance with jiu-jitsu athletes, you know. I mean, Owen Jones fought in Who's Number One the other night. Igor Tanabe fought in Quintet. You know, it makes things stressful, but everybody survived. So
just run through these 2 teams really quickly. So the European team, you've got Owen Jones, Mateusz Sosinski, Owen O'Flanagan, Joseph Chen, Taylor Pearman, and Santeri Lilias. And then on the Asia and Oceania squad, you've got Lucas Canard, Mohammed, forgetting his last name, from based in Dublin. Right?
Yeah.
Igor Tanabe, Tommy Yip, you got Hedjat Rashid, and Oliver Taza. Oliver Taza's coming in on this one.
Yeah, Kenta unfortunately couldn't make the finals. So we brought Taza in. Look, I know we're playing slightly fast and loose with the rules there. I mean, Taza has parents in Lebanon, which is technically the beginning of Asia.
Geographically, it is, right?
There you go. So
yeah.
And like people complain about Chen, but his mum or dad has a German passport.
Yep.
No, wait. Yeah, there you go.
That's correct.
Germany.
His mum has a German passport.
Nearly said the wrong country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where we are. Good teams. They're good teams. You know, I've been talking to people on the teams. There's no question that the European team probably is the favorite, just because of the level. You know, those guys, I mean, even like since we started the year, their stock has risen, you know, like we kind of knew what team we wanted to have from the beginning of the year. And by the end of the year, like they are doing so well. So,
also
it is a
interesting
tough.
note. Sorry, the European team. Every single member on that team is an ADCC trials winner. I noticed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Tough, very, very tough team.
really good.
But what was I going to say? The thing that they're 5 minute matches, which, you know, high level guys can survive 5 minutes unless you make a mistake or you get caught in something particularly good. And people get tired. So because we force the winner to stay on, even if there's no sub, you know, you could see upsets where somebody amazing is getting tired and then somebody smaller or, you know, with less accolades can come on and take advantage of the fact that they're tired. So I think it's taken a year, but now all the athletes understand that they might lose, and they might lose to someone that they might not normally lose to, but it's just part of the game.
Yeah, it's great. I love the squads format. I love that there's a result declared in every match. There's no double eliminations. It's always when it stays on, but you'll have a decision in every match. So somebody will always stay in. And then the points that you get. So it's points for a decision win and then points for a submission win. And there's like an extra point if there's a weight difference. Is that right?
It's 1 for a sub, 2 for 1 for a decision, 2 for a sub, and 3 if you submit someone from the heavier category. So if an under 80 submits an under 95 guy. Yeah. Which really cool. I don't think it happened. I can't remember. But and then talking about, you know, the kind of people having to accept losses and things. So at the end of the women's squads, we had a matchup between Helena, who was like the backstop for Team USA, Team North America. She fought Suleiman, and I think it was the last bout of squads, and it was a shortened bout because it's a hard 45-minute limit. You can get much shorter than 5-minute matches. And Suleiman just made like a perfectly timed jump straight and over Helena's guard into the mount, and won that short exchange. And Helena made it pretty clear that she wasn't going to do anything else until she got revenge. So that's the story behind the match next week. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it sets up that. It's a 66 kilo title match, Helena versus Suleiman. That's going to be exciting. Then Fionn has a title match against Margot. Margot also did really well at the last squads. And everybody knows who Fionn is, of course. So that's a pretty interesting match there. Yeah,
I mean, Fionn is, I mean, obviously she's incredibly technical and very kind of, she has a lot of accolades, and I don't want to take away from her technicality, but she's also very physical. She's like strong, you know, she has a judo background. I'm pretty sure she's done MMA before.
Yeah.
And Margot is kind of the polar opposite. She's very physically less imposing. Her game is like lots of inversions and back takes, and she's very flexible. So I think that clash of styles is going to be really interesting. You have a better sort of background knowledge than me. Have they fought before? I don't know.
If they have, it doesn't spring to mind.
It would have definitely been in the gi if they had as well.
Exactly, yeah. I don't think they've ever fought no gi. I think they fought.
I should double check that.
Pans. I think that they fought in pans in the gi 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago. So yeah, they've definitely fought once in the gi, but that was quite some time ago. And I want to say that it was a pretty quick win as well, actually, for Fionn in that one. So yeah, extra motivation for Margot to get that one back.
Yeah.
Fionn armbar.
And this will be okay. Yeah. So Margot's had some familiarity with her. And you know, this will kind of put a cap on Fionn's Polaris career so far, because I'm pretty sure she's going to be focusing on whatever the UFC have in store for her from next year. But it's been nice. We've been going through the archives and seeing, like, you know, her debut. I'm pretty sure she was a purple belt on the prelims.
Wow.
All the way through to like winning the title. She's been on the show a lot of times. She was our first ever female headliner when we did a show in Manchester. So yeah, you know, we're pretty proud to have played a little part in helping her to develop her career. Obviously she's done the hard work, but we definitely gave her a platform and, did what we could. So I think this is a good match to kind of finish up on. I mean, ultimately, the ultimate match would be her versus Helena, but,
Yeah, unlikely
maybe
to
one
see
day.
that soon here, at least.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Polaris is going to be a lot of fun. I've made no secret about the fact that I'm coming over for this one. I can't wait to see this event personally. I've enjoyed every Polaris I've been to, but I haven't personally been to a squads event. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in person, because the team aspect is just so easy to follow. I'm bringing over my wife. She kind of knows a little bit about jiu-jitsu, but obviously doesn't follow it as much as me. And I kind of feel like even for people who don't know jiu-jitsu, like the technical ins and outs, you could follow a squads event and it'll probably just make sense. It'll probably be easy enough to figure out how it works, right?
Yeah, like we've made the format and the graphics, everything. Even it's like football. It's got the team names in the corner. It's got the score. I'll also say, from a live point of view, like I'm really proud of the fact that we regularly fill theaters and things. I watch all the other jiu-jitsu shows, and a lot of them struggle to fill places. So there'll be 100 people there, 200 people there. You will be in a room with probably more than 1,000 people, including hundreds of locals who are going to be screaming the place down. So it will be it'll be really fun.
That's great. Any prelim matches I should keep an eye out for?
Well, off the top of my head, there's three people from my gym, from the gym that I train at. There is Harry, Hannah, and Leo. Leo is Jeff Lawson's son. But they're all fighting really good people from London, so who we also sponsor. So I'm like torn, because obviously I just want everyone to win. But I train with Leo, Harry, and Hannah a lot, and I hope they do well.
Do you ever kind of hold your position as the Polaris, bigwig over them? Kind of like, if you beat me up in this training round, you're not getting on the next Polaris. Or if you can beat me up, you will get a shot at
No,
Polaris.
that's the thing. People are never sure if they should beat me up or not beat me up. So I never. No,
keep them guessing.
No, I don't do it. Yeah. No, I don't do any of that stuff.
It's funny. I've definitely had that in the past where, I've gone into a gym and people know who I am. And I almost feel like they give it a little bit of an extra, because they want me to know how good they really are,
Yeah.
And then I've had other people who are aware, and they're like, oh no, be extra nice to this guy. Don't beat him up, because he can talk shit about you and hold your career back. And I'm like, I wouldn't do any of that, but it's just interesting to see the dynamic sometimes of the people in the gym.
I think people are usually nicer rather than not nice. I've had one or two people go ham on me and be like, huh? Oh, what did somebody do? Oh, I can't remember. It'll take me a minute to remember, but it was very funny. Oh, it was a Japanese guy. I won't say. He absolutely murdered me. And then afterwards he was like, yeah, I'm pretty good, yeah. Can I get on Polaris?
That's funny. That's really funny. Yeah. Wow. So what else is coming up over the next couple of months after the Polaris? Like, what can we expect? Are things going to go quiet? You're just going to switch gears and go back to Scramble and put all the focus on that? Or how does it work?
Well, there'll be like, two things going on where I wish that I had a clone of myself, because from a Scramble perspective, we're going into the busiest time of the year. Like for retail, the end of the year is just the best time of year. Black Friday, then Christmas shopping, then we do our lucky bag sale on New Year's Day. But from Polaris, we're going to make a very big announcement, probably just after the show, and then we're going to be busier than ever next year. So should be 6 shows next year. And the first show of next year will be very interesting if we can pull it off. But I can't say any more until after this one is done.
Nice little tease there. So good reason. Hopefully you can tell us in a future episode of Unknown Pressures.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if I want to change. Huh?
Maybe give us some more information in a future episode.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we'll be able to talk about it in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Very cool.
I want to know if you had any Dubai chocolate when you were in Dubai.
I did not. I refuse to eat it because I think it's too trendy. I can't believe that it's as good as it's cracked up to be.
Are you allergic to peanuts?
No, I can eat pistachios and peanuts, but I'm allergic to
that's right. It's
some nuts.
pistachios.
Yeah. For some reason, I can eat pistachios, peanuts, and cashew nuts, and then nothing else.
Right.
Don't ask me why.
Yeah, I'm only kidding. I don't care about Dubai chocolate. I just wanted to say it.
But no, the food was very good in Dubai, though. I will say that. I did eat pretty well over there. That was fun. Thanks for joining us once again. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please also give us a rating and leave a review if you feel like it. It's much appreciated and it helps us create more episodes. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again.